The Darkness 2, one of the most brutal, gory, intense games I've ever played, and it has some of the most interactive mechanics and controls I've seen for a video game. The Darkness is also a series of comics that featured crossovers with even the likes of Batman and adapted into two harshly different video games. The games take a new interesting approach and are not a one-to-one shot of the comics, instead they use the source material as inspiration or a guide rather than a template to copy. They're adapted into shorter stories in order to control pacing and adaptability for gameplay without feeling too overwhelming or unfinished for a small budget. The definitive experience of the Darkness will come from the comics, however the games are extremely enjoyable adaptation that keep faithful to the main plot lines told with a new interesting direction and media. Enter 2012. During the time that all developers were utilising the dark and edgy art trend in order to appeal to the mainstream crowd of fans, titles that defined that generation of video games like Assassin's Creed. The Darkness was overshadowed by the larger games of the generation, and is a hidden gem hiding in the darkness. Both games are heavy narrative focused titles, however the second game embraces the shooter trend that became popular during the time, resulting in The Darkness 2 being a story focused shooter with some of the most intense, gruesome and gory gameplay I've ever seen. The Darkness 2 immediately has a noticeable art shift, embracing its comic origins with brighter colours and cel shaded art style. Ambitious as it is, it does immediately feel very different to the dark, gritty human vibe the first game succeeds in delivering. While being a direct sequel, it does tap into its comic influence for better and for worse. The development team were entirely different with this second title, with only one writer, Paul Jenkins, one of the original writers of the Witchblade comics and the Darkness comics. He helped write the story for both games. The game has a few characters, but the story revolves around three: Jackie, Jenny, and this time, the Darkness itself. The voice acting is top notch, and the singer Mike Patton voices the Darkness with his incredible vocal range.
Yes! Take the cipher! Give me its power!
The gameplay consists of shooter mechanics mixed with the powers of the Darkness, something I've never seen a game do, which is quad-wielding mechanics. In this title, the Darkness is more of an individual character rather than an extension of Jackie. This is also shown through the button layouts on the controller. It was difficult to get used to, however both triggers control the Darkness while the bumpers control the shooting, and you can use them side by side, fully utilising the controller's potential that most games of the time, and still today, rarely do. You aren't just playing as Jackie, you're also playing as the Darkness. For shooting, we have some sidearms like some handguns and automatic pistols, which we can equip as dual wield, and a primary weapon that consists of shotguns and assault rifles. Its shooter mechanics are pretty smooth and you'll find yourself utilising them the majority of the time. However, this game extends its gameplay whilst being able to freely use the Darkness powers. With these powers you can interact with environmental objects like poles to impale enemies, car doors to use as shields or a frisbee, explosives, people, and more. On the PS3, it's R2 to slash the enemies that stun or kill, and L2 to pick up items or people. If unlocked through the skill tree, picking up enemies allows you to regain either health, ammo, or a temporary shield. Eating hearts is the fastest and most fun way of regaining health. This is done through some pretty gruesome interactions that include popping a guy's head off, slicing them in half, and removing their spinal cords out of their ass. At times in the story, you're able to play as the Darkling, a sort of guide slash sidekick to Jackie throughout the story, and is also British for some reason. His parts of the game are more stealth based, however you can execute enemies that let you rip out their vocal cords or pop their eyes out, to which you then run away like a gremlin. At random points in the game, he will interact with random environmental objects, which is just cute, until he starts farting and pissing on enemies. He will also distract enemies and sometimes kill them while you're engaged in other combat, or you can just throw him towards the enemies themselves. More interesting mechanics are at play here, as the Darkness being a living entity of being in the dark. When light shines on you, you are unable to use any Darkness powers and will not regain health. The Darkness will then scream at you to get out of the light.
Run! Get away from the light!
Throughout the game, you must shoot lights around the maps and deactivate generators just to progress, and there will even be members of the Brotherhood, which we will talk about later, who understand the darkness's weaknesses and will shine lights at you to kill you. When lights are shining onto you, it's incredibly hard to see where they're coming from, and your sight gets disorientated, really encouraging you to fucking move.
Get away from the light!
As previously mentioned, the Brotherhood understands Jackie and the darkness powers. As they become a threat in the middle of the game, the difficulty spike is real. As you transition from having no problems with street thugs and low-level mafia guys, the Brotherhood has extensive research into the darkness and are the main antagonists of the game. The gameplay really shows this, as they have several counters to Jackie's abilities, including a whip that steals your guns, the previously mentioned lights, shields that are unable to be grabbed unless pounded by bullets first. There's melee guys that charge at you head on, not giving you any space to breathe, teleporters that shoot you from every angle with powerful guns, and enemies in general have much tankier health, armor, and deal a bunch more damage. They really feel like the villains in the gameplay and the story. The skill tree is unlockable through Dark Essence, which you gain through killing enemies and progressing through the story. Skills also allow you to shoot bees at enemies that stun and let you unleash unlimited ammo for a temporary period, and further upgrade that allows you to shoot through walls during this time. There are upgrades that are called Dark Channeling, which infuses Dark Essence with the guns you're using, so they have increased ammo and deal increased damage as long as you're not standing in the light, further incentivizing to stay the fuck out of the light. The story begins with an optional recap of the main events of the first game, which is a great sign that this is a direct continuation. The recap is executed perfectly by this erratic, anxious character named Johnny, who we will discuss in depth later. The game is set 5 years after the events of the first game, where Jenny is dead and Jackie has found ways to suppress the darkness deep within him and keep him under control. Jackie is now head of the family after his uncle went missing in the first title.
Jack, you'll be nothing but an empty shell. And that's just how the darkness likes it.
The story begins and Jackie is appointed head of a family. We enter a restaurant greeted by our family and we are showed to our table. After being greeted to some twins to occupy Jackie for the night, a hit is taken to assassinate Jackie and one of these girls are caught in the crossfire. After an explosion, Jackie's leg is entirely fucked and must be dragged out of the restaurant by Vinny. This opens us to our first playable scene where we must shoot the enemies while Jackie is being pulled to safety. Having the camera shaky and slanted allows the player to feel Jackie's perspective. We are dragged into a kitchen filled with leaking gas and an enemy throws in a Molotov, setting the whole kitchen ablaze. During this scene we start hearing a supernatural being almost speaking to Jackie from within. This was the darkness trying to escape. He tells Jackie he must release the darkness in order to survive. We see a figure with a burned face speaking to Jackie about his father before sending a thug to finish Jackie off. Just before death, Jackie releases the darkness from within to save himself and thus shows us our first sight of the darkness. It rampages through the henchmen, ripping limb from limb with no concerns, then healing Jackie's burned leg within a moment's notice. Vinny is too injured to continue, so Jackie immediately decides to pursue these attackers without a moment's notice and introduces the player into a tutorial-like stage that allows you to familiarise yourself with the interesting controls and flow of combat. Jackie leads himself into an old diner where an orange jumpsuit henchman is awaiting Jackie for the kill. At the last moment we are introduced to our chavvy darkling friend who headbutts the attacker onto the ground before ripping a fart on his face. We are eventually led into the subway, persisting to follow the attackers, finding new weapons, and as enemies start pouring in, incoming trains smash into the enemies while creating environmental mayhem until Jackie is distracted by a vision of Jenny. In a moment of shock, Jackie chases Jenny until hit by an incoming train, resulting in Jackie's death. We awake within a mental institution. This is a place between life and death, a world controlled by the darkness while Jackie's mortal body heals. We meet Johnny, whose rambles convinces Jackie that this world is fake and that he must find him in the real world. At this point, the darkness succeeds in confusing Jackie which world is real and gaslights even the player into believing Jackie is just crazy. The scene is short-lived and we soon awaken in an alleyway midway into impaling a henchman through the mouth with the darkness. We are now in Jackie's home, surrounded by his men and familiar characters from the first game. You can interact with almost every NPC and listen to a lot of the easily missable dialogue that expands the world building. But mostly, we speak to Vinny and tell him we must find a man named Johnny Powell, who previously helped Jackie controlling the darkness. After speaking to Jimmy the Grape, we learn that a man named Swifty led the attack and Jackie plans a counterattack. After finding Swifty in a bar during a game of poker, we have some more combat while chasing Swifty into our first boss fight that included dodging a wrecking ball, throwing explosive gas tanks while defending from waves of enemies. After defeating Swifty, we chase him into an auto shop and on the way, Jackie sees a fuller version of Jenny. This time, a memory of him and Jenny a few days before his 21st birthday. The memory is bittersweet as it's also known as the day Jenny died, as she talks about more of the events that happened on the same day. Naturally, as we all would in this situation, Jackie tries to live within this fake reality for as long as he can, hoping to grasp onto Jenny for as long as possible, unaware that this is all being controlled by the darkness. The darkness feeds on suffering and controls Jackie by giving him these rays of hope, invoking deep suffering of his heart. As Jackie follows Jenny, he opens a door and finds himself back in the real world, being taunted and gaslit by the darkness.
Leave me alone!
Eventually, we catch up to Swifty and subdue him, discovering the hit was placed by a shady group at the Brimstone Club brothel and was paid to kill Jackie. Swifty continues speaking, and as he's about to reveal who these people are, he is put to an abrupt end by the darkness, shocking Jackie and showing the player that the darkness is no mere extension of Jackie. Like I previously mentioned, he is his own being acted upon his own will, merely using Jackie. This is the beginning of us seeing the darkness openly defying Jackie for his own secrecy, which he then tells Jackie that Swifty is meaningless. Jackie takes the envelope of money and retreats back to the penthouse as Vinny has now found Johnny.
They're screaming, because they're watching a horror movie. And you're not the hero. You're the monster.
Here we meet Johnny. Johnny acts as a guide to Jackie and the player. Johnny is an educated occultist that studied ancient relics clouded with dark histories. He is entirely trusted by Jackie, giving him and the player information on the supernatural world. Johnny is voiced by David Hoffman, and brilliantly executes a clinically paranoid, scared man. Johnny is my favourite character in the game due to him being so intelligent, yet so batshit mentally unstable. We return home to speak to Johnny, a man who taught Jackie how to control the darkness, but during the process, the dark essence was creeping into Johnny, so one day he up and left. Since Jackie knew how to control the darkness, he didn't have a need to chase Johnny, until now. Jackie pays Johnny to research into the darkness and who the hit came from. Johnny's brief research gives him inclines to what bad things are at play, but for now he needs more information. We then enter the Brimstone brothel to follow the lead from Swifty, which is where we meet the prostitute Venus, set up by Vinny. She tells Vinny the new owner is a guy with a limp, much like the man at the restaurant. Venus leads you to the back room while the darkness feeds on the mass suffering coming from the girls here. Ranging from drug addiction, mental manipulation and depression, all of which are inevitable in the line of prostitution, and the darkness loves to feed on it.
Nothing for you through here, buddy.
We are led to Venus's room where Vinny stashes his guns and tells Jackie to kill the new creepy owner as he is bad for business and the girls tend to go missing when visiting him. Naturally, Jackie rampages through the brothel up to the top floor. This is where we first get to use the Darkling powers to unlock doors for Jackie. This area is the first of the new enemies that I previously mentioned, but unknown why to the player right now, these enemies understand the darkness powers and are stronger and better prepared to fight Jackie. These fights force adaptability and create a difficulty spike. At one point, Jackie walks into a room filled with lights and powerful enemies, unknowingly walking into a trap that knocks him unconscious. We wake up in the middle of a crucifixion with spikes being hit into Jackie's palms. In the room are some eerie people, most notably Limpy, who we've been hunting down, and Venus's dead body hanging from the ceiling. In the middle of the room is a weird aura surrounding an object that we soon find out is a siphon to steal the darkness powers from Jackie, even at the point of death. Jackie is offered to willingly surrender the darkness, to which he replies,
Why don't you try and take it if you're such a fucking genius?
In return, we are showed a live feed of a guy named Bragg who was in Jackie's home. We see him sleazily lick a photo of Jenny before turning attention to two of Jackie's top henchmen tied up at gunpoint. We are left with a choice. Which one will be executed? Unfortunately, to the player, there's not much emotional attachment to these characters, and the execution is rather meaningless now and in the long run. Limpy orders his henchmen to break Jackie's will, as they can only take the darkness if Jackie surrenders willingly. Jackie begins to zone out of consciousness and sees visions of the darkness ordering him to keep defying them and to protect the darkness. At this point, Jackie wants to remove the darkness and his influence from his life. The darkness knows this, and in order to continue manipulating Jackie, the darkness reveals that he is in control of Jenny's soul, and we are showed her trapped in hell. We are told if the darkness dies, so does Jenny. This is all it took to keep Jackie from giving up the darkness and motivates him to break free. Ripping a spike out of his own palm, impaling it into the guy's temple, and hammers it into the crucifix with his own gun, then shooting another guy with the same gun. Limpy takes the siphon, runs out of the room, ordering the entire building to be burnt down to the ground. Jackie fights through the fire and the flames until meeting with his crew to stop the attack at his penthouse. In Jackie's penthouse garage, we fight swarms of guys raiding the place and shooting a moving car. We meet one of Jackie's guys, Dolfo, on the ground near death, near the lobby, telling them to go up without him. Johnny is here and reveals that his research led him to believe the envelope of money Jackie stole from Swifty had a seal from the Brotherhood, a group that used to be the keepers of the darkness. Now looking back, this makes sense to why all enemies are now fully equipped and prepared to fight Jackie, as they have extensive knowledge on the darkness. They are a secret underground society for centuries and currently led by Limpy, who is named Victor. I feel this is a great form of storytelling, showing the player how smart the real antagonists are without yet understanding why. Johnny reveals they have an artifact called the Siphon of the Angelus, which is the only object able to contain the darkness and is what they have used to hold him captive in the past. Looking back even further, this makes sense to why the darkness swiftly killed Swifty before he revealed who the Brotherhood was. The darkness was always aware of who these people are and wants to gatekeep this information from Jackie in order to manipulate him. Jackie begins to fight his way through the penthouse, coming against many members of the Brotherhood along the way. Jackie enters his bedroom and is immediately caught with a shotgun blast, point blank, in the face. As Jackie slowly loses consciousness, he has no choice but to watch his dear Aunt Sarah be brutally murdered by Bragg, the same man who defiled the photo of Jenny, the same man who killed his henchman. After watching Aunt Sarah die, Bragg then walks over to Jackie and finishes him off with another shotgun blast to the face. Jackie wakes up in the mental asylum again and greeted by Vinny, who questions if Jackie is taking his medication. We also see inside of Jackie's room with rambles of the darkness and the words of a crazy man written over the walls. We see more familiar characters again, notably Dolfo, who now believes he is Adolf Hitler, and another guy named Tom, who is mimicking the darkness using hand puppets. The attention to detail here is impressive, as they actually animated his lips slightly moving while he voices these puppets. Jimmy the Grape is the lead doctor and tries to convince Jackie that he is not a mobster with the powers of the darkness. He is just a mentally sick patient with visions. I love these scenes, I absolutely love them. They gaslight the player into questioning which world is real. I love the depth here as Jackie isn't coming to terms with those he usually sees as equals or underlings, telling him what to do.
Eddie, shut the fuck up!
We soon meet Jenny, the nurse who is taking care of Jackie. Jenny here acts exactly the way Jackie remembers her, with a soft, somber voice and someone who truly cares.
I'm here to help you.
It's only natural Jackie fell in love with her, and that unresolved trauma deep inside him makes him become erratic and hopeful that he and Jenny can escape. This causes the staff to try to sedate him before being interrupted by Johnny, opening a way for Jackie to escape. The janitor, oddly enough, now guides Jackie to the front door. He wakes up on the day of Aunt Sarah's funeral, after being unconscious for 4 whole days. Apparently that's how long it takes to heal from 2 shotgun blasts in the face. At the funeral, the service is interrupted by Bragg attempting to kill Jackie again, and is led into a lengthy fight with the Brotherhood in a dark, rainy graveyard, a great setting for this kind of fight. Eventually, this leads into a boss fight with Bragg. The boss fight is a little challenging, and Bragg infuses himself with dark essence in order to take down Jackie once and for all. This fight comes to an end and lets Jackie get revenge for Aunt Sarah. Bragg leaks to Jackie where Victor is hiding, while the Darkling just slaps him around like meat until Jackie slices open his flesh, rips it wide open, reaches deep into his pumping organs and rips out his bare heart, not with the darkness, but with his bare hands, while he watches. We return to Jackie's home. Jackie discusses more information Johnny found regarding the Angelus, the complete and total opposite of the darkness. It is pure light. While the darkness feeds on chaos and suffering, the Angelus wants order, the darkness needing a male host and the Angelus needing a female. The two have been fighting for as long as time, except now it has been ages since the Angelus was seen, leaving the darkness to run around unchecked. After the recent attacks and mass killings, the crew are not motivated to go on another attack and wants to lay low for a while. They believe now that Bragg is dead, there is no more fighting in the city. They can rest, except Jackie knows it's not over and decides to go solo to Hellgate, a carnival on a pier where Bragg says Victor is hiding out. Jackie is aware that this is a trap and he simply doesn't care. Here we see more memories of Jackie and Jenny as they once snuck into here together years ago. One of these memories involves Jackie trying to win a big plushie for Jenny in a duck shooting game. You get to play it, it's pretty fun. Upon finishing, you are given a small prize and told you must keep playing to get a big prize. The flashbacks end here as we fight through lengthy waves of enemies until another appears. The flashback is an extension of the previous, playing another game shooting cowboys in order to trade up and win the big prize. Eventually you win the big prize, Jenny is happy until the memory fades away, and drops the plushie onto the ground. This is where the major difficulty spike comes in, with extremely powerful large waves of enemies. However, we can't do it without our new friend. Playing this on Don difficulty for the Platinum Trophy became extremely hard in this section, with all kinds of enemies buffed to the extreme, killing you so quickly. The difficulty spike is real here. Eventually you'll find your way into a haunted house and Jackie is haunted by yet another memory of Jenny. Jackie relives the memory of when he and Jenny went on this ride and is filled with brutal jump scares and real life enemies, a nice attempt at mixing reality with Jackie's visions. Toward the end, Victor gets the drop on Jackie and traps him inside of an Iron Maiden, the perfect device to trap Jackie while restricting the darkness from healing as the spikes are stuck inside Jackie. Victor plans to take advantage of Jackie's weakened state and uses the siphon to steal the darkness from within Jackie, but instead, Jackie dies. Jackie yet again awakens within the asylum, this time in the janitor's closet, where Jackie is scratched up to hell and Eddie says it's like an Iron Maiden in there. Jackie sees Jenny and she runs as their last interaction didn't go well. Jenny believes Jackie is not well enough to see her again. She speaks to a new doctor who resembles Victor. Jackie is desperate to find a weapon so he can talk to Jenny. He speaks to Dolfo, who still believes he is Adolf Hitler, and convinces Jackie to go to the janitor's closet to find a weapon. Entering the janitor's closet, the janitor begins to help Jackie again, unknown to why, until he tells Jackie to close the door and reveals he is the Darkling. The Darkling allows you to peek behind the curtain that allows you to enter hell, where the darkness is trying to restrict you from going since he cannot control you there. And this is exactly where he is keeping Jenny's soul, implying this mental asylum is a figment created by the darkness in order to keep Jackie's mind and soul alive and in control while Jackie's mortal body heals, keeping you in the asylum, keeping Jackie away from the truth and believing he is crazy. Jackie is still trapped in the Iron Maiden and cannot enter his body, so the Darkling tells him to enter his body so he can free Jackie. So we do exactly that. In another stealth area, we sneak around as the Darkling, ripping enemies' eyes and throats out until we free Jackie. Unfortunately, the ritual was complete and now Victor has the siphon filled with the darkness and Jackie is now free. Jackie and the Darkling both are now free to think and act for themselves without the influence or manipulation of the darkness. However, Jackie must take the darkness back in order to save Jenny. So without a moment's notice, Jackie immediately follows Victor to regain the darkness. However, the Darkling has other plans.
Or we could just go to Vegas and fuck off. We're free, monkey.
Jackie soon realizes this place is his father's home. The Brotherhood used this location since he was the previous user of the darkness and has extensively studied the darkness's artifacts and weapons. It's only natural to set up base here. It is revealed that Jackie's father initially hired the Brotherhood to find the siphon in order to rid the darkness from inside of him, and so Jackie can live a life free from this curse. And he promised the Brotherhood they could keep the siphon with the darkness once they are successful. Unfortunately, Jackie's parents died before the Brotherhood found the siphon and realised they still want the darkness for themselves, and was forced to wait until Jackie became of age to reclaim the debt that was owed to them over 20 years ago. I love this twist, as it further shows the darkness is a curse to be rid of, and the antagonists have a reason to act the way they are. Jackie wanted the same as his father, to be free. However, he must save Jenny at all costs. Jackie uses his father's overpowered shotgun and goes ham on the Brotherhood, eventually catching up to Victor, where we see him stabbing Peevish with the siphon, infusing the dark essence inside of him. This puts us into a boss fight, the first boss fight of Jackie being mortal using only his wits and a shotgun. This fight is rather easy, and Jackie regains the darkness powers after taking the essence back from Peevish. Immediately, you chase down Victor through Jackie's childhood home with every kind of enemy attempting to stop you, eventually leading into the boss fight with Victor. Another rather easy boss fight, where he uses the siphon to unleash a few darkness attacks that are easy to avoid, and waves of enemies provide plenty of sources for ammo and health. The darkness is ecstatic that Jackie now has the siphon and tells Jackie to unleash it so he can have unlimited power. Jackie beats Victor to death using the siphon, and realizing it is the only way to kill the darkness once and for all, and kills himself with the siphon to piss off the darkness, sending himself back to the asylum, this time in complete control. Returning to the asylum entirely unhinged, the head doctor, which is Victor, tells Jackie he is essentially just crazy. Our bestie the Darkling is at our aid yet again and quickly helps us to escape to the roof. Without thinking, he opens a door allowing sunlight to shine upon him, completely burning him to death in front of Jackie's eyes. His last words are to motivate Jackie to do the right thing and tells Jackie,
Try not to fuck it up, eh?
Jackie rushes to the roof where he is confronted by Jenny and staff of the asylum, where you are given a choice to stay with Jenny in the asylum,
Don't you want to stay with me?
or to jump off the roof and end the illusion entirely. Sort of a red pill blue pill situation. Choosing to stay allows Jackie to live his dream with Jenny, a happy ending, living in ignorant bliss of the truth. However, to reject the asylum causes the entire illusion to break, revealing it was in fact the darkness's doing in order to control Jackie. Doing this sends Jackie straight to hell. In hell, we fight humanoid figures using guns that look like they're made of flesh and meat, fighting through waves of enemies until we reach Jenny, who is shackled to a monument in hell. After more fighting, we slowly release her from these shackles one by one. Throughout this whole mission, the darkness screams a lot at Jackie to make him stop, giving him several warnings that what he is doing is wrong.
You know not what you do!
He is being controlled, and that he will doom himself.
Doom yourself!
She's worth it.
Jackie embraces Jenny in his hands, feeling at peace he saved his one true love, and the credits roll. Both endings include Jackie being with his love. I like Jackie's motivation in the game. Following your heart and what you perceive to be love can bring you great happiness and motivation, but it's also a burden to bear, which is what we see Jackie process throughout the course of the game. Jackie followed his heart and pursued love. Whether you chose to reject the asylum or to stay with Jenny, Jackie is finally happy. Until the credits end. Jenny apologizes to Jackie, unknown why to the player and to Jackie. Jenny shoots back and is overtaken by the Angelus, the entity of light, the one true enemy to the darkness. In what would usually be an extremely badass twist, it is heavily dampened by excessive amounts of booty and jiggle physics, but past that, the Angelus reveals she was trapped in hell this whole time, and freeing Jenny allowed her to be free. She decided to take Jenny's body as a host, and revealed that Jackie is too good of a host for the darkness, and must be trapped in hell forever. Jackie was warned this whole mission that he will doom himself if he continues, but Jackie ignored the darkness's warnings, and now Jackie is doomed in hell, with no way to escape.
No.
A huge cliffhanger and a perfect setup for a final third installment where we would see a battle between the darkness and the Angelus. Unfortunately, this never happened. Unknown to why, but I remain hopeful. The Darkness 2 is a brilliant game. It has its issues, but all in all it's a big step up from the first title and is absolutely a hidden gem for this era of gaming. Earlier I mentioned Johnny studied ancient relics and artifacts that is further shown to the player through collectibles. Johnny studied these for years, each of them containing a dark essence that leeches itself onto objects or people it touches. Johnny naturally became addicted, turning into the self-coherent man we see now. Through Jackie he discovered this mythology was real and all pointed toward the darkness. Each of the descriptions of such relics are narrated by Johnny, in which he excels in bringing his personality to what would usually be just regular lordoms. I'll attach a link below for all of Johnny's narrations. It really helps world building and fun to listen to his erratic voice. I want to focus on a few relics here. Johnny takes a particular interest in two. The Abysmal Maw, which he claims is a darkness cannon that can send even the Mother Teresa to hell. And another that Jackie finds in hell, the Prism of the Brothers, a device used to contain the Angelus, just like the siphon that could contain the darkness. It was believed through history the Angelus was trapped here since World War II. However, Johnny revealed the Prism never even touched the Angelus, hinting at some extremely subtle but amazing foreshadowing that the Angelus is present elsewhere throughout the story, which we discover during that end credit scene. I mentioned earlier how I particularly took an interest into the Brotherhood's motives and their presence within the story, and I would like to expand on that more here. The Brotherhood are a great example of an evil organisation, not only as an antagonist, but as their presence as part of the world. Co-op campaign, which I will discuss very soon, heavily expands on the world building and the impact the Brotherhood has on the world. I want to make it clear that the Brotherhood is not an enemy of Jackie. Jackie is merely in their way. The Brotherhood is the enemy of the darkness. Remember, the darkness is its own entity in being and not just some demonic powers that Jackie holds. Johnny likes to refer to them as the granddaddy of all secret societies. The comics go tremendously deeper than the games do regarding the Brotherhood's history with the darkness, but for now let's stick to the game. The Brotherhood are a sort of nemesis to the darkness, only second to the Angelus. They research artifacts damped in dark essence and possess artifacts with the powers to control the darkness, such as the Siphon. Their goal is simple: to protect the world from the darkness. For 70 years, the darkness has caused mayhem unchecked after the Angelus' sudden disappearance, and the Brotherhood have been collecting dark essence and studying the darkness for even longer. Only with the help of Jackie's father could they find the Siphon of the Angelus. For a long time, the Brotherhood has merely tried to fight the darkness, and that's all they could do. But now with the Siphon, they want to control it. They know the darkness's weaknesses and its secrets. Now that they have the Siphon, they want to take the darkness once and for all for themselves. As I previously mentioned earlier, it's the debt that was owed to them. Unfortunately, as Johnny says,
There's only so long you can stare into the void before you turn just as black.
which is what Johnny personally experienced when he felt the dark essence was corrupting him years ago and caused him to turn crazy and flee. Let's get this straight. Jackie is no hero. The darkness is no hero. The Brotherhood is no hero. The question remains, who's the bigger villain? The Darkness 2 was developed by Digital Extremes and published by 2K. Digital Extremes aren't the most known devs out there. Their most popular works are for Warframe, a free-to-play third-person shooter, and a game from 1998 called Unreal, which was actually the first ever game used on the Unreal Engine. It's nearly impossible, if you're a gamer, to not have played a game built within the Unreal Engine series, and Digital Extremes were the lucky ones who got to showcase this engine's power first. This game was a first-person shooter for Windows computers and sold 1.5 million units in just 4 years. Even to today's standards, this is impressive for a video game. And only 2 months ago in November 2024, Unreal was made free to play. But back to the Darkness. The first game was developed by Starbreeze Studios. However, 2K never approached Starbreeze for the sequel. Instead, they wanted Digital Extremes just after the release of Dark Sector, which was a violent first-person shooter that was banned in Australia due to severe violence. It was later re-released as a censored version. This was a smart choice of developers for The Darkness 2, as we found out the violence dialed way up to 100 here. Between the two games, only one person worked on both games. I mentioned at the start of the video about Paul Jenkins, one of the original writers for the Witchblade comics and Darkness comics. He helped guide the writing team for both stories and was the bridge between the two developers' visions coming together. I feel he did a great job at branching the stories together whilst changing enough of the plot to be different from the comics. He helped keep the pacing steady and made the story easily understandable, especially when adding so many more comic story elements, including the Angelus and the Brotherhood, who are very large figures in the comics. The most notable change between the two games is the art direction, the first being a dark, gritty vibe with a lot of human elements, and the second being a cel-shaded comic strip adapted into a game. In some instances, we can see the textures and cel-shaded elements have shadows which are essentially blurry scribble lines. This was because the art of the game was taken copy and pasted from the comics and adapted around into 3D, so some of the original comic art elements are present in the game, which is a very nice touch. Both are vastly different experiences who in their own right did a great job. One thing I can say for sure was an upgrade in the second installment was the combat. Its lasting impressions as you finish the story offer tons of replayability through New Game Plus, with so many skill tree upgrades that were too difficult to obtain in the first playthrough. And on top of this, we also have a multiplayer mode known as Vendettas. Vendettas is a 4-player co-op mode where you play as entirely new characters recruited by Jackie Estacado, all of which have powers with the Dark Essence. The trailer here is narrated by Johnny, and again, he is just the perfect person for this job. This trailer is pure hype, and it's because of Johnny. The 4 characters all have different gameplay and styles. We have Inugami, who has a cursed sword he uses to avenge his murdered family in one hand, that devours the souls of the wicked, while in his other hand has a gun. If he goes a day without devouring a soul, a year gets taken away from his life. Next up we have Shoshana, from the Israeli Special Forces, a highly trained agent and has 2 weapons, a mystical darkness gun called the Arm of the Night in one hand, and in the other hand a regular gun. Next up is the Scotsman, Big Jimmy, the Glaswegian Scotsman, Big Jimmy. Fortunately, his accent isn't as bad as they get in real life. Jimmy has a gun in his right hand and a cursed darkness axe in his left, to which he throws enemies and travels back to him, or he can slash them up close. Something extremely important to note here about Jimmy: he hates the English. And to finish off this
Literal goon squad.
is Dr. J.P. Dooman. I love the way Johnny describes this guy.
Doctor, bad doctor, witch doctor, exactly. You get it? Because he's a witch doctor. You know what? Never mind. I don't have to impress you. All right, we're moving on.
He has a darkness cudgel called the Midnight Stick, which is a voodoo artifact that allows him to attack enemies from afar and split them apart without seemingly much effort, with a gun in the other hand. These 4 characters all team up on Jackie's side as they all have a history with the Brotherhood and seek revenge. The premise is interesting enough to encourage you to try out this mode. Although it would be inactive now, this would be fun to play with your friends. A very nice touch here is that these characters are referenced much earlier in the story. The co-op mode is set to coincide with the events of the main story. When Jackie orders Vinny to find Johnny, Vinny says he will send the new guys. Vinny here is referring to the 4 playable characters in the Vendettas mode, and also makes sense to why Johnny guides the characters and narrates that amazing fucking trailer. Vinny gives you your first mission, which is to rescue Johnny, just like they do in the story.
Whatever you say, boss. I'll have the new guys go get him.
The campaign has 8 missions in total, and you can switch characters if you choose between each mission. Each mission usually involves an artifact the Brotherhood has, and Vinny or Johnny sends the assassins to capture said artifact or to kill a specific person within the Brotherhood. The entire campaign is essentially a deeper dive into the Mafia's business with the Brotherhood, and adds a lot of world building to this short game. I think this was a great decision, but was kind of pushed in the background of the game, where not many players are even fully aware of this. It's a shame that some of these missions are also co-op only. These missions end in an extremely badass boss fight that's even difficult on easy mode. This feels like an actual boss compared to the main story bosses. Next up are the hit list missions. There are 18 in total, split across 6 locations. A few are available immediately, however most are unlocked after progression through the Vendettas campaign. All Dark Essence are transferable between both modes. Some of these are only playable in co-op, which is a little disappointing due to the game being as aged as it is. All of the hit list missions revolve around figures from the Brotherhood who have taken territory around the city and to kill a leader there. A rather simple concept, but sometimes simplicity is okay. All in all, I'm happy with this game. I found it randomly in CEX for £3.50 because it had a cool sleeve, so I got it. 4 playthroughs later, I'm a fan of the series and started reading the comics too. If you made it this far, thank you. Please consider liking the video and subscribing if you enjoy these types of videos.